In this video, we answer the burning question you've all been wondering. What is a statistical question? Let's begin. So, what is a statistical question? Well, it's just a question that can produce a variety of answers, and it's used to gather data. So, to give you an example of a statistical question, would be, what is the favorite holiday of every student at school? Now, the reason this is a statistical question is that it can produce a variety of answers. One student may say Christmas, another could say Thanksgiving, another could say New Year's, another could say Easter, another could say the 4th of July. You have multiple different answers, and I could write that data down. Now, an example of a non-statistical question would be, what is my favorite holiday? Now, the reason being is because you're just asking me my favorite holiday. I'm only going to have one answer, and I could say Thanksgiving. But I can't, just because I have two favorite holidays, if I said, oh, I really like Thanksgiving and Flag Day, that doesn't count. That's not how the word favorite works. And also, that would not count as a statistical question. So other examples of statistical questions would be, how tall is everybody in class? Or how much does everyone weigh in class? Because each person would have a different answer for that. Now, let's say we had something really strange. Let's say everyone in class weighed 100 pounds. And I just asked each student, and every student said, oh, I weigh 100 pounds. Does that make it not a statistical question? Well, no. It's still a statistical question. It just happens to be sort of odd that everyone happened to weigh the same. So let's move on to two types of statistical questions. One is categorical and the other is numerical. And I'm going to explain both. An example of categorical question would be, what is your favorite type of pizza? And an example of a numerical question would be, how many pencils does each person in our class have? Now, a categorical question will have categorical answers. And what I mean by that is that, what is your favorite type of pizza? You could say pepperoni, you can say cheese, you can say veggie, you can say gluten-free. For numerical questions, those answers are going to be numbers. So how many pencils does each person in class have? A kid could have 0 pencils. A kid could have 3. Some kids may have 4. Some kids may have 1. So those are all numerical answers. If I ask you what your favorite pizza is or what your favorite brand of shoe was, you're not going to say 5 or you're not going to say 2. That's not a numerical question. One thing you may see is that sometimes categorical questions, or the information you gather from it, it's called qualitative data. And numerical questions, the answers you gather from that, sometimes it's referred to as quantitative data. So qualitative versus quantitative. And with quantitative, I know they both sound very similar. Quantitative sounds like the word quantity, which refers to numbers. So so those are categorical and numerical questions. Let's move on. So we're going to read each of these, and we're going to see if it produces a statistical or a non-statistical question. So, how old are the customers at McDonald's? Does that have one answer or many answers? Well, a person could be 10 years old, a person could be 50 years old. So there are many answers to that, which means it is statistical. What is my shoe size? Well, I have a shoe size. It's 9, and that means there's only one answer. I'm not asking everybody their shoe size. I'm just asking me. So there's only one answer there, and that makes it not a statistical question. Again, if you say, oh, well, I've actually got one foot that's 8.5 and my other foot wears a 9, that doesn't count as many answers. It's still one answer. How many pets does my friend own? Well, you're talking about one person, so it's one answer, not statistical. How many letters are in the first names of each of my classmates? How many letters are in the first names of each of my classmates? Well, that can have many answers, and that is statistical. How many states has each student at my grade level visited? Well, you're asking multiple people, and they could have many answers. That makes it statistical. What is the height of each person in my math class? Well, we've got many different answers for that. That's statistical. What is my favorite type of cookie? My favorite type of cookie, you're asking one person, one answer, not statistical. How many presidents has the United States had? Well, you only are going to have one answer, not statistical. What is the favorite restaurant of each person in my town? Many types of answers, and that is statistical. How many employees work at the movie theater? There is only one answer to that, and it is not statistical. And finally, how many moons does the planet Mars have? That's a factual question. It's one answer, and it is not statistical. So create your own statistical question. You can go ahead and pause the video and come up with your own. For me, I've come up with a few myself. So remember, it's any question that's going to have multiple answers, and you can ask, what is the favorite theme park of sixth graders, for example? Make sure you're asking multiple people, not just one. And if I wanted to change the statistical question so that it's not statistical, I would just make it personal. So what is Walt Disney's favorite theme park? Because we have one person, we're asking one person, we're only going to have one answer. Anyways, now you can identify whether or not a question is statistical or non-statistical. The reason this is important is because you're going to be using this data. You're going to be gathering statistical data, and you're going to be using that to make different kinds of charts and graphs and things like box plots, dot plots, line plots, and histograms. I think I made up one of those. Anyhow, good luck. I'll see you next.